All right, Kerry Carpenter swing analysis. Look, a lot of you guys have bought into the current approach to the swing, which is basically Richard Schenk's style. Richard Schenck, I think I've heard him say. I'm not sure. But it's just what's popular now. And so everyone's jumping on board and just thinking that it's flawless and it's got to be the end of the road for swing instruction and nothing's ever going to be discovered that's any better. And there's so much momentum behind hands to the ball. Stay inside the ball. I see guys teaching it everywhere online and it's assumed to be the correct way. And when a guy like myself comes out and says, "Hey, everyone's doing it all wrong," it ruffles feathers. People don't want to hear that. They've had a lot of time invested into what they've been teaching, and some of these guys have been teaching for decades now. This is why I removed myself from teaching, because I didn't want to have to say I've been doing it wrong. It turns out I didn't really have to say that. I just built upon my previous ideas, but I backed out because I wasn't happy with my understanding of the swing. When I did that, I was also uncomfortable with how many people were coming after my method and saying, how good it was, because I wasn't happy with it. And the reason why they were saying how good it was is because I was working with major league players and they were seeing results. So it was good enough to get results, but it wasn't good from my own standards. I knew that there was more, so I went back to the drawing board. I removed myself from teaching. What's going on with Richard Schenck is that, he's working with major leaguers and he really hasn't shown that he can improve a major leaguer's production. I just haven't seen it. I mean, people are saying he works with major leaguers, but I haven't seen anything that says that he actually improves major leaguers. Isn't that's the standard that should be held? But I haven't seen it. I mean, you're talking about Aaron Judge. No matter what swing coach he works with, that wouldn't be a good example of why a method works or doesn't work. I mean, he's the largest hitter who has ever stepped into a batter's box. You guys just want to jump on the bandwagon and you just put blinders on and don't even consider. Now wait a second. Let's look at the details. Let's look at what's actually going on. You all just see that he's working with a major leaguer and it's like done deal. You're hook, line, and sinkered into believing it because he works with major leaguers. I mean, Ian Happ hasn't apparently improved. Scott Kingery isn't even playing Major League Baseball. These are more regular-sized people, by the way. When an instructor takes a regular-sized person who didn't previously have power, and this guy becomes a power hitter literally after working with the instructor. I haven't seen that with any of Richard Schenck's students. There's no regular-sized people who have improved a great deal. Now we have so there's Happ, who hasn't improved. If you look at his numbers, he just hasn't improved. He's pretty much the same hitter he always was. We have Kingery, who's not playing in the major leagues anymore, so he apparently got worse. And then we have Aaron Judge, who's not a good example no matter what. I mean, if you want to compare what Aaron Judge can do to what a regular-sized human can do, who's almost 100 pounds less than Judge, he can do things and put the ball out of the yard that for other people wouldn't go out of the yard. And even then, I strongly believe that Judge could do better with a different technique, without a doubt. And then now we have Kerry Carpenter. Everyone's sending me messages. What about Kerry Carpenter? Well, Kerry Carpenter isn't a small guy either. He's 220. So, and if we look at his stats, I don't see a marked improvement in home run production. I don't have his average here, but I don't believe there's been a marked improvement in average either. So what about Kerry Carpenter? Can you guys put in the respond in the comments as to when he started working with Schenck? I don't know when that was. I'm assuming it was after the 2022 year, but it could have been after the 2021. I don't know. If you guys could send video showing, any proof of when that was, that would be great. Anyways, either way, I don't really see a big improvement throughout his playing career. So let's take a look at his swing. Now, this is basically a typical, it's the conventional swing. You're hanging back on the back leg a little bit more. There's not a lot of movement. You can see he doesn't move a whole lot. He just kind of fires open from a very still position. And I think there are a lot of flaws with this. You're not getting as much body into the hit as you could. You're for the most part, because your body's not working so much, you're throwing your hands at the pitch. I mean, people say this isn't throwing your hands, but to me, it's pushing. If you have your hands, see, if you don't have a lot of hand depth, which he doesn't right here, you're going to tend to push more. So what I would work on with him is getting more hand depth at this point in the swing. Maybe even having a backswing, flowing into the redirection. And that will give him more hand depth. He can still have a nice bent back arm if that's what he wants. But typically guys will have a little bit of a straighter front arm, and that'll just give them more distance and more front humerus compression. So I would like to see more hand depth, more straightness in the front arm. Get that front humerus compression. But today's swing, they think that it's all about launch quickness. That's the end-all, be-all. And Richard Schenck even says it. Like, that's all he considers when developing his swing method is based 100% on launch quickness. And there's a lot more to hitting than just launch quickness. If being as quick as possible was the most important thing and there was nothing else, then obviously we'd all just bunt, or we'd just put our hands right in the zone and just flick at the pitch with our wrists. But you can see Carpenter is a front arm dominant player. He's dominant in his front arm. And his back arm, therefore, is less likely to overexert. And it doesn't overexert. Even though he gets into less than ideal positions here, he does not really overexert too much from here to contact. And so he's able to achieve a nice connected position at contact. And this is really what is helping him. It's not all this stuff that Richard Schenck works on. It's this nice connected position at contact, which I'm going to say probably was there prior to Schenck. And if you look at his stats, that's, if we looked at his college and minor league swings, I would say that you're probably going to see the same type of contact position. Now, I've said this about Schenck's approach. It's the best I've seen go to the mainstream. It's the best approach that has hit the mainstream yet. But it is not ideal. And the reason why I say it's the best one yet is because every other approach would make guys more disconnected at contact. I wouldn't say Schenck actually does that. I think that in some cases it could make guys more connected. But I think the best thing that it's done for Carpenter and for Judge is that it hasn't made them less connected at contact. And maybe it has even made them more connected at contact. It can do that for hitters. And so, but because he doesn't point out the connected position at contact, doesn't talk about it, and doesn't, stress it, then then he's missing the mark with his theory. And even then, it's not the best way to achieve a connected position at contact. You can see, if I were to put Griffey up here, you would see not only a bent back arm, but you'd see that the front arm was still nice and close to the body too. So he's got two arms that are really nice and close to the body. And you can't compare Griffey and Kerry Carpenter. I mean, we're talking about Ken Griffey Jr., and obviously this guy's only 2 years in, but judging by his positions, he's not going to achieve, and I know that's a high standard. Griffey is one of the best pound-for-pound hitters of all time, but he's not going to hit for Griffey's level of power because even though he's 25 pounds heavier, he's not going to hit with his power because he's not as connected at contact. That's the big difference here. And, people say, well, you can't swing like Griffey and you can't aspire to the best pound-for-pound hitter or one of the best hitters of all time, this and that. Why not? Why not? Why can't you copy what Griffey did? It's about transferring the most mass into the hit that you can. And anyone can do that. This is what helped guys like Oscar Gamble and Ben Ogilvy and these guys who only weighed 160 pounds. But they got as much of that 160 pounds into the hit. And there you can see his back arm and the bat are in line well after contact. This tells me that there's not a lot of flip in his swing. Very typical swing of today. I'm not a fan. There you can see, again, a pretty well-connected position at contact, but it could be better. What I would work on Carpenter, what I would work with him on is, again, getting more of that hand depth. Allowing the arms, the swing of today is so tight in the arms. This is one of the main things I see and one of the main things I have a problem with in today's conventional swing is how tight everyone is in their arms. And they have to be because their body's not doing much. Their body's staying pretty still. We're back to the 80s. Basically, we're doing the 80s swing, but not swinging down, we're swinging up. That's it. And that's not going to lead to substantial improvement. So I would just work on getting more hand depth. He's already got a very good concept of contact. You can see here, good concept of contact, but you can see he's leaning back and he's pushing with the arms a lot. I would like to see him more straight up and down, allowing the arms to be more loose. Take a backswing so you can get more hand depth as you redirect and go into the forward swing. The hand depth will allow him, if you create hand depth back here, it'll allow you to be more connected as you go into contact and use more of your body rotation. But again, he's kind of a front arm dominant swinger, but he's been influenced by today's instruction. However, he hasn't lost a lot of what makes him great in the first place. A lot of these front arm dominant positions. And I see this so often. So at least we've gotten to a place in swing instruction where we're not making hitters worse. I mean, if he was back in the 80s and he was doing and he was buying into the conventional instruction, then he would be disconnecting his position at contact more. He would be slapping the ball a lot more. But at least today's instruction will allow the great positions that you see in more front arm dominant hitters to remain, and in some cases even help their positioning of hitters who are very back arm dominant, very arm controlled. Today's swing could make them a little less arm controlled, more body controlled. But what I'm saying out there, guys out there, is that I believe I have a better method. Even, yes, the approach of today is better than what it was in the 80s. I'll give it that. But, you know, it's common to just assume that we're at the end of the road in terms of evolving in areas. And that's what's going on in swing instruction. It happens in science all the time. People think, oh, we've basically discovered everything and we only have about 5% left, and that'll come in the next couple years. But that's not the case. In 100 years from now, we're going to know things about the swing that we don't know now. And even in just 3 years, this conventional style that Schenck has brought to the public will have died down, and there'll be something else. And I'm hoping that it'll be my theory. And everyone gets mad at me out there for hoping that, but that's what I've been working towards. And it will come. It will come. Much to many of your dismay, it will come. And I feel it coming soon. But there are a lot of you guys who have bought into hands inside the ball, or, you know, whatever it might be. Schenck's method, hands inside the ball, throw the hands, stay inside the ball. And you guys have assumed that this is correct. What I'm saying is it's actually a lot simpler than any method that has come along. It's real simple. You can do whatever you want, whatever's comfortable. You can do it. The only thing that really matters is not overexerting the back arm. Don't overexert your back arm and see how you deliver power into the ball. However you want to deliver power into the ball. Hit off a tee. Don't overexert your back arm. And what do you do? What do you do? And don't try to go outside of what is normal for you. Just almost, I have to tell people, don't even think of it as a baseball swing at first. Take your back arm off, swing with just your front arm, and deliver the most possible power. Let's work with that first. Let's see where we are with that. Then we'll worry about things like the secondary cushion, how the back arm is going to contribute. What is the back arm? How does it contribute? But first, I mean, the main thing is just not overexerting the back arm. And beyond that, nothing else matters. Everyone's talking about the hips and where the back shoulder needs to be and and it's so confusing. It's kind of, it reminds me of electronics back in the 80s. If you get like a stereo or something like that back in the 80s. Ironically, it was at a time where we knew less. We had inferior technology, but yet there were like 100 buttons on these things. And finally someone realized that, it actually simpler is what people want. They don't need all these different controls. In fact, that just gets in the way and makes it more confusing. That's where we are in the evolution of swing instruction right now. Every instructor, including Richard Schenck, needs like an hour to explain his theory. I could describe my theory in an elevator ride. Don't overexert the back arm. Beyond that, do whatever you want. And I think that we need simpler. We really need the room to express your own movement in your own way. Because right now hitters they're being put into this mold, and it's not even addressing the main problem in the swing. What you want to do is hit only the main problem. And other than that, allow hitters to express their swing the way they want to express it. That's the beauty of hitting the mark exactly, of understanding exactly what gets in the way of a great swing. And it's really just something simple. It's just overexerting the back arm. So thank you guys for watching. Check out my website where I have my new book, Swing Like Griffey. My website is theswingmechanic.com. I thank you everyone for your support. I look forward to hearing your comments, and I'll see you next time.